All right. Hey, Darryl,
We
how is
made
it?
it.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good.
Yeah, it took a minute. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. No worries. I mean, hey, we all run into it, especially I feel like everyone can relate to it this year, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
All right,
This
everyone.
is all
So
new.
this is Darryl Alexander for everyone who's popping in now, and he's a Alexander's Jewelers, and he is this year's second place innovative faceting winner for the 20 AGTA Spectrum Award in the Cutting Edge division. And yeah, let's just get started. Dale, do you want to kind of like introduce your company a little bit and say what Alexander's Jewelers is all about?
Yeah.
We can start there.
Yeah. So Alexander's Jewelers is a company that started out with doing some gemstone cutting carving. Can you hear me?
Yep, yep, I can hear you.
Okay. So it's a company that started out doing jewelry first, and then we moved into gemstone carving. So it's a company that it's a bit diverse. Just a second here. I'm sorry. We're trying to technical difficulties.
No worries, no worries. Take your time.
Maybe let's try this. Let's see if that's better. That a little bit better?
Sure, sure.
All right. So basically, I was just a company that started out. Um, oh wow, we are just having loads of fun here. Okay, I think that's better. All right, so we started out doing stone cutting and jewelry, and then it just kind of evolved into this bigger company that wound up doing a lot of one-of-a-kind custom cutting and custom jewelry. I started out doing repairs and things like that. I worked for a company years ago called Borsheim's in Omaha, Nebraska, and that's how I got a lot of my training. But I'm self-taught, so I
Right.
learned a lot before I ever wound up going there. And then as I was there, I got the opportunity to see and work on a lot of one-of-a-kind custom jewelry that most people probably won't ever have the chance to see. Um, multi-million dollar pieces. And so it was
Wow.
just a great opportunity and experience to learn and do very unique, different things.
Mhm.
And then from there, I went into doing my own custom work. And so I had a lot of stores that had asked in Omaha, from Omaha to Phoenix, if I could do one of a kind custom for them here in the Phoenix area.
Right.
So I wound up moving out here to Arizona to do that. And so that's how I wound up where I'm at. But my business has been based out of Arizona for about 25 years or so. And so it's been doing really well. And so we started out with doing the Tucson Gym Show about that point in time. And that was when I got introduced to AGTA.
Nice, nice. So it's interesting that you say that you started really with jewelry because I feel like, I've only been in the industry for 2 years, but with like the interaction that I've had with your company and your pieces, I feel like I see like all the carvings and
Mm-hmm.
like big focus on gemstones. So kind of how is
Yeah.
that path? Because it started primarily jewelry, and I'm sure I mean, you're still doing jewelry today. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but where do you kind of like where's you kind of like your like I just feel like I just know you for the gemstones really. Right? I mean, it's just like the pieces that you produce are just absolutely incredible. So
Oh, well, thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. And then especially with your son won last year too,
Yes, yes.
steps as well. So do you focus more in the gemstones or is it like the day to day? Is it a lot of jewelry as well? To the step?
Well, I would say we primarily focus mainly on gemstone, but I'm a jeweler first. So
Gotcha.
I learned jewelry long before I ever learned stone cutting. So what happened is when I moved out here to the Phoenix area, I was already dabbling in stone cutting,
Hmm.
but I really hadn't gotten that involved into stone cutting. So it's fairly new for me, if you will. I've been at jewelry a lot longer than I've been at stone cutting, and high-end custom jewelry a lot longer. And so
Right.
most people do know me as a stone cutter and not as a jeweler. And that's because as I started doing the cutting has kind of taken over. It's been my primary focus, I guess. And the jewelry has kind of somewhat taken a secondary place. So most people see me as a cutter because they see me at Tucson all the time.
Right.
So I do have a select number of designers that I do jewelry for, and that private collectors that I do jewelry for. But I would say yes, mainly stone cutting anymore. But I enjoy both. And that's kind of unusual to have somebody do both. There's only a handful of people that I'm aware of that do a little bit of everything. So I can build a piece from start to finish. So I'll do the wax work, I'll do the casting, I'll do the setting, the stone cutting, and I'll finish the piece from start to finish. Most people have to have a crew of people or hire certain people to do specific jobs. I wanted to be one of those people who was able to do everything and hopefully do it really well, which I think I do. I'm still working at my craft. I've still got a long ways to go. But yeah, the stone cutting has really become the primary thing. And so I started out doing pearl carvings, which a lot of people knew me for years as the pearl carver.
Really?
And then, yeah. So I won quite a few awards with the pearl carvings. I actually won the American Pearl Company. They had a competition for a number of years. And so I won awards with them through that. I won some through the American Pearl Association. I won a ring design that I did in pearl. I've also won some Spectrum Awards with pearl pieces. So that's kind of how I got known. And then it moved into hard gemstone cutting, because a lot of people didn't know that I could do that also. So I was trying to prove a point. And so I moved into hard gemstone cutting. Yeah.
But so you're really a jack of all trades then.
Yes, yeah.
How does that play into your business as far as like, so do you primarily source rough or to kind of like go through the whole process, or are you like, what is that whole kind of, if you do it yourself and produce the final product, yeah, what is the sourcing like for you guys?
Well, so for me, sourcing comes from a number of different places. I do, like most people who are cutters, look for rough through a number of different venues, whether it be making contacts with people in different countries and buying direct, or whether it be going to the gym shows, like out at Quartzsite, going to the Tucson Gym Show to buy rough or try and source rough. And one of the other ways for me is actually mining. And I mine a number of the gemstones that I actually cut.
So I read that on your website, and tell me about that. Like, so do you own a mine, or is it a partnership with a mining company like in Arizona? Like, what is that process?
Well, so I don't own a mine, but I am partners with some friends that do own mines.
Okay.
One of the biggest mine that I've worked with over the years, I started out with some great friends. They owned a mine called the Dust Devil. And yes, the Don Buford and a number of the other guys that were partners together with the Dust Devil. I started out with them doing some mining. And then I moved from that into working with another company called Sunstone Butte, which is all sunstone material. And I've been primarily working with them over the last number of years. So almost all the sunstone, well, I think all of the sunstone awards that I've gotten through Spectrum were through Sunstone Butte Mine, their material.
Yeah, because I've always like connected you with gem, like carving, innovative fasting, but of sunstones. I mean, also hence your Instagram.
Yeah.
But this year it's a barrel. So
Yes, yes. So one of the other, there's actually about 4 or 5 different gems that I mine. I mine amethyst with a gentleman that owns a mine.
mhm.
Excuse me, I mine the sunstone, of course. I've done agates, jaspers, quartzes. There's just a range of gems that I've gone out and gone hunting for, even in the Arizona area here. So it allows me the opportunity to source directly
Mhm.
and be able to get some of the best material. And then too, it's all American mined material. So that's kind of neat also. Now, as far as the cutting goes, it's a range of cutting. I'm kind of all over the board. I wish I could say I had a style, because some guys you can see their work and immediately you just know that that's their work, you know. I don't know if I can necessarily say that because my taste and idea of cutting ranges all over the place. So I'll go from carving to faceting to art objects to, you know, you name it. But yeah, the barrel was a different piece this year. So I partnered with a friend of mine that owns a company called Commercial Mineral. And it was a gem that I found about maybe 3 years ago at the Tucson Gem Show. And they partnered with me to purchase that particular piece of rough. And then their part was to buy the rough. My part was to cut the rough. So it
So,
worked out really well for the two of us. It was about a 3-year process. It shouldn't have taken that long, but because I have so many projects in the works, it tends to take a while sometimes to get around to certain things.
right.
And I'm a one-man show, unfortunately. So, it's not like I have a shop of people working with me. Some cutters do. They'll hire people to work with them or have people they've trained to work with them. My son started probably when he was about maybe 16.
Mhm.
And he started kind of playing around with it, but it wasn't really in the aspect of thinking of him as a partner as much as just hoping that he would take up the trade.
Yeah.
So that's about the only person I've ever really taught the business to. I've always tried to help other people, but in a roundabout way, that's really about the whole kind of extent of teaching. So when it comes to that particular gemstone, when I bought it, as I mentioned, it took a while, so I'm kind of circling around. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
But when I bought that gem, it sat on my bench for a while studying it. And I think that's kind of the process for a lot of cutters.
Are we talking right now?
I'm sorry?
Are we talking about the barrel right now?
Yes, the barrel.
See if I can pull it up real quick now so that everyone here can see it. Hold on. I don't know where the picture. Normally, there's a little picture icon on my screen, which is not here currently.
I do have it here if you can't pull a picture up.
I'm afraid I just updated my phone, wondering if that might be part of the issue. But let me try clicking this. Hold on. Okay, I don't know why it's not giving me the option. Let's swivel sideways. If sometimes something will come up. Okay, well, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know why it's not giving me the option to put up a picture right now. But yeah, if you've got the piece, let's all see it.
Okay. So I had sent you pictures, which was kind of neat. And I don't like to say we're not able to pull it up at the moment, but the progression pictures of the rough to the finished gem. And it always changes, when you're looking at studying a gem, at least for me, sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes you see immediately what needs to be done with the piece of rough.
Yeah.
And I always try and let the rough talk to me, and I know that sounds kind of odd, but generally the material kind of tells you what it wants to be, whether it's got inclusions or fractures or natural beauty that you want to work around. You study it for that, at least I do. And
Okay.
then I try and maximize the yield of the material, which any good cutter tries to do. So from that perspective, it's like, how do you approach that piece of rough? Do you just cut it to make it fit whatever you want, or do you then try and let it speak for itself? I always try and let it speak for itself. Now, there are, with that being said, certain pieces of material that you can just impose your will upon, meaning that it's just a piece of quartz and it's a rough shape and you can just do whatever you want to it. There are other pieces that you see immediately because of the shape that it dictates what it's going to be, whether it be because of inclusions or fractures. In
Right.
this particular case, I'll hold it up. Um, it was a, let's bring it back a little bit. It was just a long, straight barrel crystal.
Okay,
And
hold on, let me try this too. I pulled up your pictures on my laptop, which is right here, so I can
okay,
show some of the progression shots. Sorry, everyone, it's not as clean as it usually is. But so let's hold on. Let me go to the final product that you sent me, which I think was at the top.
yes.
All right, so let me try to come back a little bit. Let's see. All right, so here's the piece we've got that was the winner. It's a little bit easier to see, I think, on here, especially when, I think sometimes the video doesn't always come through as much as we'd like, but it was just spectacular, especially up close. And here, hold on, let me go over to our website. So here's a little bit further
Wow.
back. You've got a shot, everybody.
That shows you actually, which is really cool, the range of color that was in this particular barrel. So they're going to call it a Heliodor golden barrel.
Okay.
And this particular piece is from Brazil, and it was just a very long, clean crystal. And at the very bottom, where it goes to green, it had some natural inclusions in the end of the crystal, some
Okay.
silt. And so my thought with the piece was, instead of just cutting that all off, what could I do to enhance that and keep the length of the crystal and keep the color range? And so my thought was trying to carve the end of it and go into or transition into a faceted gem. And so the idea was trying to play with that concept. And if you scroll back to the initial pictures toward the end, you'll see, so down further where I just started with the crystal. Keep going.
Oh, okay. So the first shots. All right.
Yeah.
We'll start with
Okay.
the beginnings. Hold on. I think this was the first, right?
Yeah, that's probably the first one.
Okay.
And so what I was doing is just drawing on it, trying to figure what I was going to do with that particular crystal. Trying to utilize, like I said, the silk into the clear, clean faceted and keep the color transitions. And then if you scroll up, or actually down a little bit, yeah, there you go. You
This
can
way.
see where there I'm starting to kind of figure out what I wanted to do.
Right.
Um,
That's where
yeah,
you're creative.
so from there, I just kind of started playing with it. I had the concept of wanting to do something that was really fluid and that followed the length of the crystal. And in this particular case, then I was just playing with kind of this flame-like pattern. And actually, the first drawing I did, which I think it's pictured on one of the crystals that I have a picture of.
This one, or you want me to go up?
Go up.
Okay. You're going up.
One more, maybe. Let's try one more. Let's see if it's in that one. These may be. Go ahead.
One more.
Yeah, okay, so I may not have sent you that picture, but I had a different drawing on the crystal to begin with.
Oh,
And
okay.
I didn't like the way it looked. And so I took it off, and then this drawing is actually the concept that I started with. And so you can kind of see the water type pattern and the bubbles, and it
Mm-hmm.
was kind of the seaweed kind of feel to it,
Nailed it.
yeah, very organic. And that was kind of the idea that I wanted to transition from the natural organic kind of feel of the crystal into something very refined toward the top of the crystal.
Yeah. No, and then so you start out with, because I've seen some of your other progression shots that you post on social media. And so it seems like this is the process you do on a lot of your carvings or facets, as you start with a fine tip Sharpie. Is that what it is?
Yes, I do. Yeah, and there's sometimes I just go at it. But generally speaking, I kind of try and lay them out because
Hmm.
not always is your first idea your best idea. And so if I can draw it on there, I can kind of visualize what is going to work best.
Yep.
And then from there, then I can start in. And that's this picture that you're showing now is actually me starting the carving work of that particular crystal.
Right.
So the way it'll start out is you preform, which is what they call it, the crystal, meaning you shape the crystal to how you want it to be.
Hmm.
Then you start in your details, like the carving work. And then from there, from the carving work, you get that all refined and finished. And then you go back and then you finish faceting the stone. That's the last step, because you want all your lines to be very clean and crisp, and all the chipping or little marks that you get from carving
Hmm.
to be taken off. And
Okay.
so that's the general process. And so this was just a step-by-step picture of that process.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for cataloging all this and then sharing it with us. So how long would this whole process be for you?
So,
Like for this one piece in particular?
so this one, excluding the 3 years that it took me to get around to it.
Well, yeah, let's say once you sat down to say like, okay, this piece is gonna get my attention.
Okay, so I would say that one, from the minute I started on it, it was, I worked on that exclusively, so I had to set everything aside. So I work at one bench, jeweler's bench, to do all of my cutting, which is very unusual. Most people have a separate setup. So whether I'm doing jewelry work or whether I'm doing cutting, so I have to, it's a total different mindset. So I'll put all
Mhm.
my jewelry stuff away, I'll clean my bench, and I set it up for carving. And then once I do that and I sit down with like this particular piece, I would say it probably took me probably about a full week of working on it to get it completed. The carving in itself, well, once I got it preformed, which probably is actually one of the quicker things, that probably took me maybe 3-4 hours to get it preformed to the
Mhm.
shape that I wanted.
Right.
And then I started in on the carving work once I got the design laid out. The actual carving probably took maybe about 4 or 5 hours for the carving itself, but then the carving's the easy part. The finishing's what's difficult.
Uh-huh.
Um, you can rough a design in, and most carvers will tell you, you can rough a design in really quick.
Yeah.
Uh, it's the finishing that is what takes forever. You'll spend 3 to 4 times the amount of time it takes you to carve something, or at least get the pattern in, as finishing. Because for every step, you've got to do another step. So I'll go through about 4 steps to get a polished carving, meaning that once I get the shape and the design roughed in, then it's a step with a coarse grit of diamond,
Hmm.
and then you go to a finer grit, and then a finer grit, and then finally your polish. So it's a progress that you have to go through, a progressive step process to get it finished, and that's what takes the longest.
And do you polish or finish up and sit like inside each one of those lines?
Yes, yeah. In this particular case, it was a nightmare.
I can imagine. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Because what happens is, as you're polishing and finishing, you lose your detail, and so you have to then use certain specific tools to keep the detail.
mhm.
Otherwise, it tends to round off your edges, and you lose your shape and your definition. So all
Okay.
those lines that have the nice crisp little V's and curves and stuff will fade away because you're grinding and polishing
Yep.
those. You're going back in that same spot 3 or 4 times to try and get it polished out. And so you have to make tools, because they don't sell tools that can do that. So you've got to make tools that fit those curves or those shapes to do the finishing. And so I'll quite often have to make specific tools. And in this case, once I started it, I thought, what did I get myself into? And
Well,
it took a while.
yeah. I mean, I think it really goes to show the amount of work because I have the from where I sit. I just accept all the pieces and go through them and get to look at all the pretty finished products. But I think it's like it's once you have these conversations with the creatives, the people who actually made the piece, you
Mm-hmm.
actually start to have a true appreciation for what it is that you're holding, and that it's not, like it's not something that's quick. It's not something that's easy. It's something that takes a lot of hard work to pull something off like this. And that's where I think at least for me, I start to really see the value in all these pieces and the craftsmanship and really the talent that.
Oh, thank you. I would agree with you. I look at other artists' work. There's so many talented artists out there that are doing cutting, carving, faceting. And when I see it, we all, as just a jeweler, see the end product. You don't see the stress, the anguish that they went through to get that finished piece. Because sometimes you'll start in on a piece and something will chip or something will break or a fracture will show up that wasn't there before. And so then you've got to try and refigure how you're going to make that piece work with those parameters. And so it's just, as a cutter, I understand it and I appreciate other people's work. But quite often as a jeweler, you just see a finished product and you think, oh, what a pretty piece, or a neat piece that someone cut. And I would agree with you. When you sit down and you discuss with that individual what it took to get that piece and the thought process, then it's a whole different deal. And I think for any of the artists like myself, when somebody buys a piece like this, they're buying a piece of you, because that is your expression to the world of what you are and who you are at the moment. And I think for any true artist, that's the case.
Yeah, and I think it's like I've had conversations with jewelers and but what's funny is how much everyone talks about the polishing and how that is really what separates the good pieces from the great, and where like that's where you get that finely finished piece of work that really not flawless necessarily, but that maybe flawless, but
that's what we're aiming for, right?
and that's where not cutting like kind of comes into play, I feel like, in this industry, because the fact that you're saying cut it all was maybe a day or two, but then it sounds like it took days, but like the rest of the time was polishing and creating pieces to just do it. That's amazing. I mean,
yeah. That is true. It's the time that you spend in that finishing that I think separates the crowd.
Yeah.
When I look at a truly talented cutter, you can put a loop to their work and not find scratches, not find marks. And that's really the separating factor, as you mentioned, between the really good jewelers, cutters, because you can make or break a piece. You can have a great cutting or a great piece of jewelry, but if it's not finished well, it doesn't make a difference, That's all they see, And vice versa. You can take a piece that's not that fabulous, but if it's finished exceptionally well, then it sings. And that's really the big difference. It's the time someone takes to finish something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on that note, what would you want to share with some of our listeners as far as like advice in this, and like maybe it's kind of pulled from with maybe something you noticed when teaching your son, and just in this kind of line of business and gem cutting, or what would you tell some of our listeners today about what, like, a little piece of advice that they can like take away from this?
I would say probably one of the biggest things is to follow your passion. I mean, I think if you believe in yourself and what you're doing, that in itself is a huge part of becoming a successful artist. And that's what we're all striving to do. I mean, I personally don't ever feel I'm where I need to be with what I do. I'm trying to always improve what I do, and I'm always trying to become more innovative with what I do. And so I think that in itself is huge. The other thing too is educating yourself with what you do. If you were in my studio, you would see tons and tons of books where I've just studied because I am self-taught. I've not really been taught by anybody for jewelry or for cutting. So I did a lot of studying, a lot of research, getting a great education that way, whether you're going to a school or whether you're taking the time to teach yourself, is understanding whatever process you're going to do to the best that you can perform it, and never settling for second place. I had a good friend by the name of, his name is French. He owns French Designer Jewelries, and one of the things he told me years ago, and it didn't make sense at the moment, but it totally makes sense now, was don't stop at the finish line when you're working on something. Continue running past it. And that idea, meaning that you're not just stopping at something going, okay, that's good. Take it as far as you can possibly take it, and then you can be finished. You know, you can be proud of it. And, you know, and if, like myself, and I think most other artists, you can look back at a piece and go, okay, now I know how to improve that, or how I could get a better finish, or how I could, you know, in some way improve what you've done. And that's what makes you a good artist, is to keep growing.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it's just, I think the passion, like you said, definitely can help also drive for people to get through kind of like the tougher times when you are just learning, when you're read a couple, you know, extra books to learn something, or if you're self-taught like you know, I think that's very inspirational to people where they may not have the luxury to be able to go take full, you know, tons of time off and go
Yeah.
some sort of professional education. And I mean, I think that's, I think it, you know, that's something that we can all use, and not just in lapidary skills and things like that, but really anything. I feel like follow our passion.
Yeah.
Off and hopefully more successful. I mean, especially with someone like, I mean, you are very, you know, renowned in all, like you have gotten tons of awards across your, and for someone who's self-taught, I think that's a lot for,
Yeah.
for people.
Well, I'll say I feel very honored to be in the position I am. I never thought I'd be where I'm at, honestly. If you'd have told me when I started out that this is where I would be, I wouldn't have believed you, you know, to say that I've wound up in the Smithsonian, the Rice Museum, and a handful of others, you know, along with having won so many Spectrum Awards. It's just been truly a pleasure, but I never would have dreamt that I could have done that. But you know, I had some good help along the way. You know, people who believed in me, people who supported me along the way, and you know, honestly, and I have to just give credit where credit is due. Sunstone Butte, Dust Devil, a good friend of mine, Doug Malby, Somewhere in the Rainbow. Those are people and individuals who all have supported me over the years and helped me along. And so, and AGTA winning the Spectrum Awards has done a lot with winning those competitions, has really put my name in the forefront with a lot of people as well. So I'm grateful for all of those opportunities.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for supporting the competition. You know, this was, I know for everybody, a very challenging year. So, you know, we were very excited to see that we actually had more entries this year than in the past couple. But thank you so much for coming on, and your work is just incredible. You know, everything that you're sending in and what you've won over the past couple of years. So I'm looking forward this next year to see what other pieces you're going to be providing. And do you think your son's also going to be throwing some stuff in this?
I'm sure he will. Yes, I'm sure he will. He was very busy this year, and he did get a chance to enter. He's still cutting, and he's a, I have to say this because I'm proud, a very talented young man.
Of course, that was, you know, it's blind judgely, so judged blindly. There, you know, words around, but I mean, that just goes to show, and you know, he was up against people who've been in the industry for 30 years, like yourself. You know,
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's, you guys are doing some great work out of Arizona. Let's, you know, put it at that.
Well, thank you. We'll look forward to it. Hopefully, he'll get a chance to enter coming up. You know, I'm sure he'll probably be looking forward to trying to win again. So, it'll be a friendly competition between the two of us.
Do it. Never everyone, again, Darryl Alexander of Alexander's Jewelry. He won the second place award for innovative faceting for this past year's Spectrum competition. And Darryl, thank you again so much for coming on, and everyone who tuned in, thank you for watching. You can catch us next week again at this time.
Thanks again. Appreciate it.
All right, I'll talk to you later, Darryl.
Bye-bye.
Bye.